Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Open Cluster Management Community Meeting. Today is April 25th, 2025. On the agenda today, excited to have Z-Way, who's going to talk a little bit about the unable to default on the resource cleanup. Z-Way, please feel free to take it away whenever you're ready. Thanks.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, I just want to introduce this new change in the latest OCM. The resource we upgrade the resource cleanup feature gate from alpha to beta and enable it by default in the latest OCM. The main impact is that when a class is deleted, the add-ons and manifesto works in the class namespace will be cleaned up by the registration controller automatically. And the deletion order like this, the add-ons are deleted first and then the manifesto works. If you want to customize the order of the deletion, you can use annotation. The annotation added to the add-on or the manifest work. It can be controlled the deletion order. The value of this annotation is about 0 to 100, and the smaller value will be deleted first. And if you do not need this feature gate, you can disable it in the class manager CR like this. Yeah, that's I'll introduce this new change in this latest OCM. That's it.
Thanks, Joey. So do we already have a doc on the website about this? Like, what cleanup will do and how it can be configured?
I remember that I added a doc to our website, but I checked there's no edit doc about this. I will edit.
Yeah, okay. And another question is, maybe you could also like to introduce about what's the purpose of that cleanup priority annotation will need, like what kind of use cases that we will need this priority annotation for. And I think we also have some additional thing like there will be status conditions indicating the deleting status. Would you also like to talk about that also?
Yeah. About the deletion order, there are some cases like the for example, like the add-ons, it has pre-delete manifest work or the deploy manifest work, so need to make sure the deletion order, the deploy manifest work is deleted first, and then the the pre-delete manifesto should be deleted first, and then the deploy manifest work like this cases. So we need to mix the priority for the deletion orders for the resources. Yeah. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, so I think the question is like more on, for example, if I have two manifest work, how in which scenario that I want to delete the manifest work at first, the first one, and then delete the second one. One of the possible cases, you probably will have a CRD on one manifest work, and another one is on the controller that's owning the CRD. So when we delete the manifest work, when we clean up, we will need to set that we delete the CRD at first, which is to set the priority of the CRD manifest work with higher priority, and then delete the second one with that includes the controller. So is there any? So I think that we need to yeah, maybe in the doc we need to give some examples like why in which case that we want to set the priority.
Yeah, CRD and CR keys is more appropriate here. Thank you, Julia.
Julia, I think another example is manifest work, including namespace.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe we want to delete some namespace after we remove all resource from this namespace.
Yeah, great. That's another great case. Thank you. I will add these cases and in our website doc.
Thank you, ZY. Are there any other questions or comments for ZY? If not, I want to talk a little bit about. Oh, before I get to the next topic, Qjang, do you have anything you want to mention for the community?
Yeah, so still for that one, I wanted to like discuss about the impact, like because we don't have that before, and any impact that we enable it by default that the user should take care. Yeah, maybe we can discuss offline. I haven't think thoroughly on that, but yeah, I mean, since we already have the Slack message on the channel, we can discuss offline that.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Mike?
Yep. Well, I want to take the chance here to mention some of the latest development in the SIG multi-cluster. Let me share my screen. So in the latest SIG multi-cluster, the community have been really making a push centered around cluster inventory and the concept of having a hub cluster, which is essentially almost the same as our open cluster management hub cluster, or it's the multi-cluster control plane, right? Oh, it doesn't have to be a control plane, but I mean it essentially represents a cluster that holds a bunch of stuff, and those multi-cluster stuff, it's what the SIG MC community are saying is, okay, we're gonna have the cluster inventory, which is our managed clusters and managed cluster sets, and then scheduler, which is our placement, and then the syncer. Syncer is, you know, to push or pull the manifest, essentially our manifest work API. We're trying to push some workload down to the managed clusters, and then the networking stuff, and then the multi-cluster helper package, and then of course the UI and the UX and the interface. So this is something that, you know, the SIG-MC community is trying to push through. And one of the very first thing that they want to do is having authorization in cluster profile. So if you remember, cluster profile, it's part of the cluster inventory API. And what a cluster profile represents essentially it's kind of like a pointer for each managed clusters. And cluster profile is now becoming sort of the standardization among the SIG multi-cluster, which is great. And there's now usage and consumers of that API. But what is kind of lacking in cluster profile, one of the first thing is credential access. And then I just want to bring attention to this cluster profile credential proposal through the plugin that one of the developer in the SIG multi-cluster brought up. And then he's saying that instead of, you know, putting kind of inserting a spec into cluster profile that holds these credentials, which we really try. I mean, we probably spend, you know, half a year trying to get everyone to come together, agree on something, and then we weren't able to do it because, you know, there's too many. It might not be the best practice. There's too many different scenarios, too many cases to cover. But regardless, the what this developer quarantine is trying to push is, hey, why don't we do a plugin? And a plugin is more like, okay, the cluster profile will kind of provide a hint on how to fetch the credential, and then it's actually up to the multi-cluster controller. Like it could be the latest multi-cluster runtime that is now on the SIG multi-cluster, something like that. That actually contains the ability to access the plugin and pull the credentials for that cluster profile, and then whatever needs to consume the cluster profile, like the multi-cluster controller can get the credential and then access the managed cluster accordingly. So there's no really, you know, this is the way to do it or this is not the way to do it. But I just want to bring it to attention. Like this is something that, you know, the SIG multi-cluster is doing, and something we should try to participate and keep an eye out, and then perhaps maybe we can be involved in it as well. Um, you know, QJang probably knows way more than me on the topics that I just brought up. So QJang, I wonder if you have a chance to take a look, and then what are your some of the comments on it? It's just some quick comments. Doesn't have to be anything too deep.
Yeah, I think that this one is a very I think I like this design, and I think this is very it's quite fit to what we currently do on the OCM. Like we in OCM has a cluster proxy, and we actually starting to introduce something like impersonate, and we basically could have or some shared workload identity features in the cluster proxy. So we can use credentials on the hub side to access a managed cluster with certain permissions. So I think with that features, it makes it more easier for us to in the cluster profile we could introduce a plugin like OCM plugin so that um, the controllers on the hub side will be able to access the managed clusters API using a generated kubeconfig and through the cluster proxy to the managed cluster. So as Mike mentioned, there's also progress on the SIG multi-cluster about the multi-cluster controller runtime. That is to build a controller runtime into a multi-cluster aware. And there's a set of plugins in that so in general you can use a controller runtime, and then the client in the controller runtime is able to be specified to access different clusters. So there are some plugins like using the CAPI and Kind. And the thing that we want to do with Corton in the SIG multi-cluster is that we were able to create some libraries in the cluster inventory API repo, a library that you can generate the kubeconfig from that library, and that can be consumed by the controller runtime and other project like Q or Argo CD. And in that library, we could introduce different plugins like the OCM plugin, maybe Spiffy and Spiral plugin, something that we have proposed in the KubeCon, and maybe also like GKE, AKE, EKS plugins. So that's an interesting thing that we haven't been able to do, but with class inventory, it is possible. Yeah, so we are having some chat on the discussion on the SIG multi-cluster on this thing, and we hope to build a proof POC about this credential thing in the maybe recently. So if anyone is interested, you can take a look at that discussion, take a look at the slides, and also think about this idea in terms of OCM, etc. Yeah, I think that's all. Maybe I talk too much.
No, thank you, Kuchen, for that clarification explanation. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, thank you, Mike and Julian. I think this is something how we are doing recently on Yuchen from Kubefleet, and I recently are preparing the KubeCon China, and there's a topic we're going to talk about this one, to use Spiffy and Spare to get get the credentials for many cluster to access the many clusters from hub side. Yeah, so yeah, anyways, thank you, Mike. I think this is a motivation that we need to we want to do using the Spiffy and Spare solution.
And that is for accessing the managed cluster API, and that is different from the other one. I think it was, I forgot there was visualization, and that's different from this one, right? It's not the registration driver, but it's more like the access to. I think you mentioned it already.
Yeah, you are right.
Okay, so it's different from this one, but it's using Spiffy similar to this type of concept to access the managed cluster.
Yeah, we use Spiffy Spare to build a kubeconfig, and then we can use this kubeconfig to access the many clusters.
Okay, no, that's really exciting. So the concept is kind of similar to this plugin as well.
Yeah.
Instead of having a spec somewhere in the ManagedCluster or ClusterProfile, you're relying on some external something. Great, I can't wait. That's very exciting. And then maybe we can, after you have a successful QCon, maybe we can do a presentation in the SIG multi-cluster as well, and let them. I mean, let's see what their community feedback is. I know that they're planning to have a APAC time-friendly SIG multi-cluster meeting. I know the current meeting time is really bad for the folks in Asia. So once they have the more Asia time friendly time, I think your topics are going to be really hot. I mean, so
Yeah.
really looking forward to of course you're successful. You're going to be do really well in the QCon presentation, and then bring it to SIG multi-cluster, and see what the community thinks. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if Yuchen already did the demo in the group multi-cluster group, but if we have further progressing, we can do another demo again. Yeah.
Okay, I see.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's all we have for this week. Anyone have any more comments? Questions? Well, thank you everyone for joining this week. See you all next time. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.